Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to CageChat MMA. We're here for the UFC 260 recap. Of course, Francis Ngannou is now the heavyweight champion of the world. I thought it was a very dominant display, wasn't it, on Saturday night against Stipe Miocic? He righted all those wrongs from the original fight, and he put on a spectacular performance and finished it with, a trademark Francis Ngannou knockout. It was fantastic the way that he controlled the fight. He came in, he stood his ground in the middle of the octagon, let Stipe, obviously was 30 pounds lighter, and Wayne take around the outside, look to get on the inside, land one or two, get back out of range of Francis, or try and at least get Francis to almost chasing him away so Stipe could catch him. But Francis looked phenomenal, and it shows the work that he's done at Extreme Couture. Moving down to Vegas has really benefited him now. He's on a 5-fight win streak now. He's defeated 3 former champions now in that regime. He's defeated probably a former challenger in Derek Lewis. Lost to Derek Lewis, but obviously beat Curtis Blades and Rosenstruck, who you could probably see down the line. And obviously Derek Lewis is going to be itching to get that one back. Maybe that one could be next. Obviously, to talk about John Jones. I'm getting to that a little bit later. But that first round showed a lot, didn't it? It showed maybe Stipe. He is the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's got the most defenses for the heavyweight title. He's got a fantastic resume, and just because he lost on Saturday night doesn't mean he's overrated. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean he's done. It doesn't mean he's not valued as a high level competitor. He's one of the greatest we've ever seen. But Saturday night just wasn't his night, and unfortunately, we have those nights in MMA. Just lagging out there, but yeah, we have those nights in MMA. It was a fantastic night for Francis. It felt like Francis' night, didn't it? All the build-up was towards him, righting the wrong from 220 back in January of 2018. It was all about him, really nailing his flag in this heavyweight division. He was so close so many times. He's wiped out pretty much everyone in that division now. But, he'd never got onto that pedestal of being a champion, and he is now. And he deserved it so much. That second round was phenomenal. The way he clipped him, the way he then finished him. Obviously, he got slightly clipped himself, but it looked more of the graze, although heavyweight graze is, probably everyone's knockout power. And obviously, Stipe got sent to sleep, and it was a scary knockout to witness, wasn't it? Obviously, you see his legs buckle out beneath him, but it shows the power and confidence that Francis possessed. He was very calm and collected and composed, and he picked his shots nicely, using those leg kicks very well, using a high kick very well. He's shown his game is evolving from this quite raw, powerful boxer that we knew Francis to be. That it was a very powerful, raw boxer in that first fight, but he's shown, working in Vegas, that he can stuff that takedown now. He can switch it up very quickly. He took the back very nicely and had those strikes similar to what we saw against Junior Dos Santos that put Junior Dos Santos away, which again is applauded to Stipe for staying in and keeping his toughness in that fight and not going down at that point, because I think many competitors would have. But he kept going. He recalculated, repossessed him, and regathered his thoughts, Stipe, and he managed to get out of that first round, landed a bit of his own damage, but again, it was very much all Francis. It was very much a 10-9 Francis round. And in the second, he got the job done. And it shows the influence that Kamaru Usman has in his corner. He is a champion. He's defended the belt numerous times now. It shows what he's 34, 35. It shows the growth that he has. He's coming to the peak of his powers at the age he is, Francis Ngannou. And it's incredible to see. He's 34 years of age. So moving up to 16-3. And we'll take a look at the statistics, of course. So as you see, 12 strikes landed there out of 13 for Miocic, but 38 landed out of 58 from Ngannou, and 36 of them significant 1 out of 2 takedowns as well for Ngannou. So a phenomenal night for him. And he showed his wrestling capabilities, it showed his prowess, and it shows what the coaches at Extreme Couture have putting him through. He's looked phenomenal in those training camps, and we didn't see it against Rosenstruck because of the quickness that the fight was over in. only lasted 40 seconds at the very maximum. But it did show us that he could be champion for a while here. Obviously, beat a lot of the guys that are in that top 5, top 6. I think the John Jones chat is the one that we need to be looking at. Obviously, Dane has come out and said Derek Lewis is the fight to make, but if John Jones wants to fight, it's there almost questioning his want and need for the fight, almost saying, he's putting all these tweets out, he's talking very loudly on social media, but he doesn't seem to want to get into the cage. Whereas John Jones is coming back and forth going, I just want to be paid for my, expertise and my, high risk, high reward sort of scenario. Because, Francis Ngannou does hit very hard. And it could be a long night for John Jones, so he deserves to be paid for that sort of risk. Derek Lewis is a funny one as well, because obviously he said at their first fight, at the end of the first fight, these two are going to be fighting in 3 years for a title. We'll have the rematch. Francis Ngannou be in the red corner. Derek Lewis will have picked up a couple wins, fought for the title even. It would have been hard to imagine, but obviously we're here now. Derek Lewis beat Curtis Blades, is rightfully the number 1 contender. Obviously Stipe Miocic, should he decide to want to have that trilogy bout, that's still in his favour and still a possibility. But I think due to the protocols, the medical protocols, due to the knockout, he's going to be out for 6-7 months tops. He might have retire later down the week once he's gathered his thoughts. He's got a child on the way, and he took a heavy knockout, his second knockout in 4 fights, of course. Albeit the DC one might not have been as effective because obviously DC is a smaller man. But still, heavyweight power connecting with heavyweight. So it's a tough one. I think John Jones is the one we go down that path with. But obviously, we lost the Adesanya fight, and we can't afford to lose another John Jones super fight with Ngannou. I think John Jones is probably the biggest fight in MMA history. You've got the greatest of all time in John Jones versus maybe the scariest man on the planet in Francis Ngannou. And it does get the taste, it gets that excitement about MMA, about the true challenges. It's very gladiatorial, this sport, and that one, certainly goes into the top 5 of those sort of fighters that we've seen. It would be interesting to see what Brock Lesnar does, because I do think Brock Lesnar and Ngannou, they're cut from the same cloth athletically, but you got Brock Lesnar who went down the wrestling route, and you got Francis who went down the boxing and striking route. It'd be interesting to see how, if those two were to collide, just how that experiment would go. Pretty much, it would be an exciting one. But obviously, Brock Lesnar's retired from MMA. Obviously, he's not in WWE at the moment, so it's interesting to see where his future lies. Whether it's perhaps in MMA with Bellator, making that fatal fight perhaps. But for me, you have to make Francis Ngannou Jones. To have a look at the heavyweight rankings, he's beat Blades, he's beat Rosenstruck already. Obviously, the ring wasn't in the rankings, but he got released, so there's no problem there. Curtis Blades, he's beaten twice. It's a tough fight to make. Obviously, lost to Derek Lewis. I actually should have changed it, shouldn't I? With Francis Ngannou now the champion. These are go from Saturday night. Cyril Gane's an interesting one. That one would be interesting to take place in Paris. Obviously, got Alexander Volkov there. I think, obviously he beat either if you do Rosenstruck versus. Personally, I'd do Gane versus Volkov, and then Rosenstruck versus Blades. 2 winners, 2 losses, and we see where we go from there. And Blades and Rosenstruck both lost to Francis Ngannou already, so they're not going to be in the immediate IFL title contention. Whereas Cyril Gane, obviously there's a connection there with them. They're both fighting at the same gym, or fighting out at the same gym originally in Paris. We want to see UFC in France and in Paris as well. So Gane would be a fantastic way to kick that off, wouldn't it? Headline in Paris card. 1 or 2 title defenses in a row, full sold out crowd. It would be incredible to see. For Stipe, again, I don't know what's next for him. Obviously, he's going to be out for a little while after that. Hopefully, he's going to be out for a while, at least 6-7 months, just to recover from that knockout. You put him up against a Derek Lewis, maybe, if he wants to remain active. If John Jones does take that fight against Ngannou, it's interesting. You know, I'd like to see him retire. I think I'd like to see him retire. He's 38 years of age. You know, he's 20-4. He's the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's got nothing left to really prove. He's already beaten Ngannou, so you know if that trilogy does open up, maybe that's the only fight he comes back for. But I don't see the need for him to come back. I think he, obviously he's got a good job at the fire department, which he's still doing. Obviously, he's got a family now to take care of. So it's interesting what we see Stipe do next. But let's hope we see him out, taking care of himself for 6-7 months. At least, probably not see him fight again in 2020, maybe. Now that moves on nicely to the co-main event where Vicente Luque did defeat Tyron Woodley, but it was a very different Tyron Woodley to what we had almost been expected to see after the Usman Burns and Covington fight. Woodley came out, he took control of the fight rather than being counterproductive and looking to counter in the fight rather than giving the lead of the dance over to his opponent. He took it in the forefront of the fight, and he really started grappling really well. He showed that he might have been back the chosen one, but unfortunately for him, he got caught with that right hand, and then Vicente Luque just took over the fight from there, the silent assassin, and got him out very quickly with that darts choke. Considering it was only 4 minutes of a fight, he got a fight of the night, and it was very much a tale of two, really, with Tyron Woodley taking the first 2 minutes of that fight, you could say, and then Vicente Luque taking the second 2 minutes, and it shows there's still fighting the old dog in Tyron Woodley. Maybe not in the UFC, but I think there's still a reason for him to stay and stick within MMA. I think he could, offer his services to PFL quite nicely. Obviously, got Rory McDonald over there in that welterweight division. Obviously, Bellator got Douglas Lima at the helm of the welterweight division, and I think it's sliding very nicely either at Bellator or PFL. I think he probably gets one more strike in the UFC to say this job just because of the performance he put in on Saturday night. Before we start having those conversations whether he needs to be in the UFC or should be in the UFC. But it's a good win for Vicente Luque. It was a good loss to Tyron Woodley in comparison to his previous 3 losses. Not go out whimper almost. It's almost showing why he's there, showing why he's a former champion. And to have a look at the welterweight rankings, obviously he's going to slip down to probably just underneath the top 10, or maybe just in that top 10. I can't remember where Vicente Luque was. So Vicente Luque was 10th. So you could put him up against Jeff Neal, or I'd like to see that Robbie Lawler fight run back if I'm honest. Both of those two are on their final legs in the UFC. I'd like to see that run back. And I don't really see, Jeff Neal's a good shout. Liang is also a good shout, but it's not a big enough name really for Tyron Woodley to be fighting, although I don't know if he gets to choose who he fights on a name basis now. Belal Muhammad should be fighting again Leon Edwards, in my opinion, and that fight needs to be remade and rescheduled. So it's a tough one. But yeah, I'd put him up against Robbie Lawler, or you put him up against the undefeated Sean Brady, the prospect that's coming up. So you're looking at the bottom of the welterweight rankings, with all due respect to the guys. Being at the top 15 is still ahead of an achievement. So yeah, for me, if you're booking with Woodley a fight, it's got to be either Robbie Lawler or Sean Brady for me personally. Now for Vicente Luque, I'd like to see him fight Colby Covington. I'd like to see him pushed up to that elite caliber of fighters now. Colby Covington, should be fighting Gilbert Burns. As we mentioned there, Leon Edwards should be fighting Belal Muhammad. He's lost to Stephen Thompson, and obviously Masvidal's fighting Kamaru Usman. So we've only really got 2 competitors. Chiesas up there as well, which again would be a good scrap. But if you're matchmaker, you probably do Chiesa versus Wonderboy, and then you do Vicente Luque versus either Burns or Covington. Obviously, the ideal fight is Covington versus Burns, but if those two can't get it together, I'd certainly put Vicente Luque in that mix as well. And if Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad don't get that scrap going on, I think Leon Edwards should be in the mix there as well. So yes, a good night as a whole for the welterweight division. But it's unfortunate. Let's have a quick look at the ranking, at the statistics, of course. 21 out of 43 strikes landed there. 18 out of 40 of them were significant for Tyron. 0 out of 1 takedowns. 41 out of 49 there for Luque in strikes, and 25 out of 33 significant strikes as well. And obviously, that darts choke. I put Tyron Woodley there. That's my bad. I should put Vicente Luque. Not mean double checking my work, but hey. Make sure to hit that follow button, subscribe button if you're watching on Facebook and Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, of course. Now, it was on nicely to the Sugar Show, who got 2 knockouts in one night, pretty much, didn't he? He looked phenomenal on Saturday night against Thomas Almeida. Now, say what you want about Sean O'Malley. You know, his previous probably year has not been the greatest in terms of the way he sold himself, the way he's spoken to the press. You know, he didn't handle that loss, or hasn't handled that loss pretty well. You know, he's still, or maybe he has going on about this undefeated mentality, saying he's not lost because he lost a calf kick, so he didn't get finished, or lost a unanimous decision. So maybe it has done the world of good, and that mentality somewhat needs to be applauded. Because he looked phenomenal on Saturday night, and whatever he threw, whatever he tried, landed. That head kick was reminiscent of Valentina Shevchenko against Jessica Rai. There was elements of, watching that Conor McGregor fight in there in terms of excitement, in terms of pure confidence in the octagon. There was bits of Wonder Boy in there, bits of everyone. It was just a fantastic all-round performance. And that head kick probably should have finished the fight, really, especially those strikes off against the cage. It takes you back to Rock Holden against Yoel Romero. Romero came in there, gave him 2, didn't he? 2 heavy blows, and called it a night there. Whereas Sean O'Malley walked off, expecting the fight to be called. Unfortunately, it didn't. It didn't, and we got to see 10 more minutes of that spectacular performance from Sugar Sean O'Malley, which is probably better for him because obviously the finish against Eddie Wineland, we saw it knock out great for social media, but you don't see too much development of the kid. But we got to see 15 minutes of just why he's so highly respected and highly wanted to succeed in this division. Now, it's going to be tough to put matchups for him because obviously he's going to want a top 15 name. Obviously, this division is absolutely stacked at the moment. And Marlon Vera, who he lost to, still at 15th in that division, albeit he did go up against Jose Aldo, right? And it didn't quite work out for him in what was quite a close competitive fight. He lost the decision to Jose Aldo, so he has had a test against those top 10 competitors. So I guess if you're the matchmakers, you can do a Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili, Jimmy Rivera, Hassan Chal maybe, but Dominic Cruz seems to be the name that is rolling off the tongue of everyone. A former bantamweight champion, a former top competitor. He's coming off a win himself recently. So it is one of those ones where you're looking at it and going, Dominic Cruz, Jose Aldo, Cody Garrett was the name, and obviously Adrian Yanez, who's right on the edge of that top 15 now with his spectacular performance. He's right on the edge of being a ranked fighter, but this division is absolutely stacked. You could put Sean O'Malley's or against Marlon Moraes, Frankie Edgar, Pedro Munoz, and expect a really fantastic fight. Cody Starman, obviously the UK, and Nathaniel Wood was putting his name out there for that fight as well earlier, and again, that would be a fantastic fight. We've got a really strong, really deep, stacked, and talent-rich division. But for me, Sean O'Malley, Dominic Cruz is the one that almost makes sense. Passing the guard moment, obviously, with Dominic Cruz, who's very experienced, got a crazy sort of style with his footwork and his energy in the cage, and so does Sean O'Malley. So yeah, maybe that is a fight to make for us. If Uriah Faber is still fighting and I'm still fighting at bantamweight, maybe book him. Uriah Faber versus Sean O'Malley, that would be a good scrap, wouldn't it? I think Dominic Cruz is probably more the one to make, personally. Now, to have a look at the statistics, we also have some lag issues, so I do apologise. Sean O'Malley now 157 strikes, an absolutely phenomenal display. 86 of them out of 149, significant. For Almeida, it was 25 out of 71. Both strikes and significant strikes. for him, and Sean O'Malley getting that finish finally in the third round, which was a vicious finish in the end, wasn't it? Obviously, referee Mark Smith let the fight go on, and Sean O'Malley landed one more before celebrating and dunking in the octagon. It was a fantastic performance from him. A couple of times where he probably could have got the fight finished. He was looking for that walk-off knockout. Didn't quite get it, but in the end, he certainly got that fatality to end the night. And no, there was points this week where I wasn't, feeling warm towards Sean O'Malley because of some of the stuff he said. But, whether you love him or hate him, you have to respect the skill and talent that he brings into the octagon. And that moves us on to the rest of the card. Obviously, Miranda Maverick beat Jenna Robertson by unanimous decision. Jamie Mullarkey got his first UFC win with a fantastic knockout in 46 seconds against Carmen Worthy. Didn't, I believe, get a fight bonus, which is unfortunate for him because it is his first win. It was a phenomenal win as well. To have a look at the bonuses, obviously Francis Ngannou got 50k through his knockout. So the performances did go to, I think, Sean O'Malley. Let's try and find this properly. My apologies. So yeah, the fight bonuses did go towards Francis Ngannou, Sean O'Malley, and fight of the night to Vicente Luque and Tyron Woodley. So unfortunately for Mullarkey, he did miss out on that extra 50Ks that he probably could have and should have earned. Obviously, Alonzo Minifield beat Fabio Charant, fight of on blue choke. That was the short notice fight for Charant making his UFC debut. He says he'd broken a rib, whether that was in the fight or prior to the fight, I don't know, but he said he wasn't 100% healthy. Probably explains the weight cut miss for him as well. He's just trying to get his name in the UFC and his foot in the door of the UFC because he might get a second chance to, once he's fully healthy, to get another opportunity in the UFC at least. Abubakar Nurmagomedov beat Jared Gooden in a fantastic scrap, which is a decision. A little bit controversial on the night. Modestas Bukauskas lost to Mikhail Oleksiuk via split decision. Many thought Modestas had won that fight, so let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. I did have it 29-28 Modestas. I thought he'd done enough in round 1 and 2. I gave Mikhail the third round because he did put a lot of damage on there. It was always when he was hurt, he almost looked the most dangerous. And Modestas and was setting back a couple strikes almost. He'd reset and gather his composure and go again. But it's unfortunate for Modestas because he's not had the easiest free fights. So his first 3 UFC fights at least. Jimmy Crute and Mikhail are top competitors in that division. And he won't be cut being 1 and 2, but it'd be interesting to see who his next opponent is, where they almost rank him in terms of a light heavyweight competitor. Omar Morales beat Shane Young by unanimous decision, and Marc-Andre Barry defeated Abu Azaitar versus KO, or via TKO ground and pound in the 30 final round. Now, to stick with the European MMA, Paddy Pimblett has signed for the UFC, which is a phenomenal move for him. Obviously, he was on the Cage Warriors trilogy last weekend now. Cage Warriors 112 put on a phenomenal performance against Davide Martinez, beat him very convincingly. And, he pretty much said at that point that he was off to the UFC. Obviously, Cage Warriors president, Graham Boylan, had said, we're going to try and offer him as much as whatever we can to appease him, to make him stay at Cage Warriors, because he is the poster boy. He sells out the Liverpool Arena in seconds. But, at 26 years of age, he's had, a couple of times where he's been offered chances to sign for the UFC, or the moment has arisen, but he's not been able to. I've seen not been able to take it. He's chosen not to take it due to, personal reasons and injuries in recent times. But now is the right time to make it. He's 26 years of age. He's 16-3. He's got a phenomenal resume on him, having grown up with Cage Warriors, and it's time now to see him on the big stage in the UFC. So another signing for Liverpool, Steve joining like some money we can, and Darren Till, of course. Obviously got Nathan Fletcher, who's 5-0 down at Cage Warriors. It seems to be the next sort of crop that's coming up from that gym as well, and next gen. But yes, it was good news to see, and I think it was a bit of an unknown secret if you watched the preview show or the Wayne show with BT, Nick Pete was pretty much alluding to the fact that he had been signed up by the UFC. And it's going to be interesting to see who they put him up against next. You look at the likes of Mason Jones making his UFC debut last year. And it shows Modestus obviously coming through Cage Wars. Graham Portland put out a tweet. It's the 104th fighter from Cage Wars who's now signed over to the UFC, I think. I think Bellator has included that in that as well, but it might just be the UFC. But again, fantastic number, fantastic avenue into professional MMA. You go for Cage Wars, you get to the top of Cage Wars, you're pretty much guaranteed a UFC contract. You look at Jai Herbert, you look at Ross Ustinov at Bellator. So it's a fantastic breeding ground for European MMA's elite. And it's going to be interesting to see who's on the next trilogy now, because obviously they've got that from the 24th to the 26th of June. And I'd imagine, Ian Gabry could be having his last Cage Warriors fight if he wins that title against Jack Round. Paul Hughes, if he gets a title shot, he'd probably 1 or 2 away from the UFC at least. But, it just shows if you're a young fighter in the UK and, mainland Europe as a whole, now Scandinavia, 2 of them signed in the likes of Tobias Harila. There's a guaranteed pathway now. There's a route that everyone can follow to make it in the UFC, to make it Bellator. So yes, good work for Paddy Pimblett. Rather than see him in the cage, hopefully there's a UFC Liverpool next year as well, rather than a UFC London, because the Liverpool Echo Arena will go off with a Paddy the Baddy, Darren Till, Monty McCann, all fighting on the same card. And need to get it done and get it sorted out. He said he's going to set out Anfield. How about this? We get this COVID out of the way. Hopefully we see fans back in the arenas back into this year. Maybe next year, going into the spring, we have Darren Till versus Adesanya as the main event. We see Paddy Pimblett on that card. We see Monty McCann on that card down in Anfield, or at the road in Anfield. 45,000, I think their capacity is 50,000 people in there. They spanned it up to 60,000 using the pitch, of course, and let's have a proper night of it. And have a proper event to get back get MMA and UFC back on British soil, because it's been too long now. Obviously, we just went to UFC London, but with the lockdown being introduced that week, it got cancelled. And so we've had Cage Warriors Manchester and the trilogy events going on, which have been fantastic. But to have the UFC Liverpool at Anfield would be absolutely phenomenal for the sport. So yes, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Make sure to hit that follow button on Twitch and on Facebook. Make sure to hit that subscribe on YouTube. And I'll see you guys. No UFC this week, but we will be covering Bellator, of course, which has just announced their very first rankings as well. So yes, I will see you guys on Friday night.